Do you manage to start a recording?
No, I
Okay.
didn't find I didn't get the option of record.
I think I started it now.
Okay.
It says
That's why I
recording
couldn't find it. Yeah.
All right.
We
I think we're good. Should we get going or wait a few minutes?
Did you get anyone from Lara team to join?
Yes. Jon said he will be joining.
Yeah, that's good. I guess if I'm not waiting for someone, we could just as well start. You made an agenda for today, Frederick.
Yes. I will just send you a reminder here.
So the first point of the agenda is Linux Foundation update. Per couldn't join today, so yes, that was his point.
Yeah, I think everything is ready for being listed on the LF site. It's just they're waiting if we want to do any press release or something.
Yeah, if you want to do it with an event or something. But I guess the GB is handling that. Did you get hold of June, or should we do the agenda and start with something else than Howard?
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so just some quick things. So I have made all the technical board members should now be maintainers in the GitLab, but I'm missing from Milan from Microsoft. I'm missing. I think you haven't registered in GitLab, so you don't have a GitLab handle. Is Milan there? I guess not.
No, he's not on the list.
Okay, we'll bring it up on the GB meeting next. Yeah, and then another point is to I advise everyone to turn on the two-factor authentication in GitLab, so to get some more security. It's quite easy to do. You go to your GitLab profile, to settings, account, and then two-factor authentication, and then you can register, and you can. I used an app on my phone to provide a second authentication method. So it's called FreeOTP. It's easy to install. And then there, from the governance board, they want us to discuss around providing some development platform like a PC solution. So they want us to, from the technical board, to discuss around what would be the best solution.
Yeah, today we have a Raspberry Pi, but they wanted to extend that to have some more powerful platform.
So I'm fine with that, like providing or having an AMD 64 based platform as well. And I think Larod already supports this running on CPU, so it should not be a problem there. And also it should not be a problem with Opencv as well. So I don't really see it. So I kind of started a specification for UniMatrix. So it's now it's checked into to a new project called Spec. So I actually added an AMD 64 platform there. So maybe we should just quickly. I just started this. It's a draft, so maybe we should just quickly go through it and see if you have any comments.
Good idea.
Any comments right now? So I just used the standard RFC 2119 for for specifying the requirements. So it is like shall not or shall and so on. Also, to specify what or unspecified, I refer to the C99 standard. It's pretty common to do that. So for a host, and so this specification will cover the host that is running the containers and also the base layers and any kind of common system containers that we will provide, like for example the inference engine. So I divided up these in different sections. So the first section is about the host requirements, and then there's the base layers, and then section for the video API, which is not really started, and then inference API, and then for the system containers. So I just started with the host requirements, and so the first one is to check for that the operating system has the correct options enabled, so that you can run basically run containers on it. So I've looked at a couple of this. So there's a script for example, for Docker to check if you. So, but it's quite big. It checks for a lot of options which are not really required, I would say. So we should make our own script, I think, which checks for the necessary things and also maybe check for optional things which could be a sign that you're maybe not running as effective as you can. So there, I'm gonna have a look and see if I can write that script. Also, the Docker script is not really. So the idea here is that you will run that on your host, and it needs to have the kernel configuration available. So normally that is available through the proc file system. So it's like So if you don't support it, exposing your kernel configuration over the proc, you must provide it as an option to the script. So then basically the script goes through the whole kernel configuration and check that you have enabled the correct options. Are there any questions, any suggestions about this?
Just a quick one here. Container D access to dbus is a little unusual. No, are we sure that we require that for the proposed capabilities?
Yeah, right now it's like that because Lard service is using that. The Lard is the inference API is kind of split up. There's a library that will be in the container. Then there is a service that runs on dbus. So the library will talk to the inference engine over a dbus. But the dbus, it doesn't need to be the system bus. I guess it can be the user bus as well.
Yeah, I mean, one real gotcha here is, for example, trying to get systemd to run inside Docker containers. It's kind of a real pain in the ass, and it's extremely delicate. So I just want to make sure we're not going down that rabbit hole.
There is a problem around if you're using the user namespace. Is that what you're referring to?
Just in general, I mean, even the service namespaces, yeah, I mean, it's quite touchy and basically not supported wholesale. Red Hat has done some work on it on the side, but yeah, I mean, we've kind of gone down this rabbit hole a bit, and it's not pretty.
We have used it a lot, so if you stay away from the user namespace, I think it's fine. And there are solutions for that in the works.
Yeah, I guess it would be good to understand what you guys have done because we've not had much success. But yeah, I mean, happy to table this. It seems like it's going to get pretty detailed pretty quickly.
Yeah. So anyway, right now the Lard engine is using dbus mainly for negotiating a socket. So yeah, maybe Yoon can comment on this. I think from the so right now at least the dbus connection is needed. I think it's mainly needed to negotiate a Unix domain socket, so that basically when you do inference, you don't use dbus for that. You use basically a Unix domain socket for it. But I believe the initial negotiations to get that socket, you need to get that over dbus.
Yeah, that's true. Dbus and a connection to the dbus broker is required for session initialization, and as Frederick described, to get the one of the ends from a socket pair connection, but the library itself, the dbus implementation, the dbus library implementation is required as well because we use peer-to-peer dbus to communicate over the socket. But for that communication is not going through the dbus broker. So there's no scheduling overhead or such related to that.
Yeah, but I think there have been problems with dbus using it from inside a container. For example, the user namespace is not really pretty.
Yeah.
I think the solution we have done is basically mapping users in the container are mapped to something that exists on the host as well. So even if you have and stay away from using root also in the container. So we are not really using a user namespace right now.
So the primary issue here is not really the dbus dependency itself, the dbus library dependency itself. It's rather the communication dependency with
It's basically a limitation in the dbus protocol, I think, because there's no way when you send a message from inside the container to when you change it doesn't, you can't map one user to the other to the host use a namespace really. I think Canonical has done a workaround for it, so they have a way of translating the user between the container and the host.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking here. I mean, I don't know the details about communication in and out of a container from a host system, but is there the most important thing here is the ability to send file descriptors and to be
but
able
you do that. But you don't do that over dbus, right? You do that over a Unix domain socket.
The initial the socket pair endpoint is communicated over dbus, but that could be, of course, be communicated over a socket in the first place. So we could have a server socket open, for example, and we could a Unix domain server socket open for a session initialization. That could be an option. Would that solve this issue of context translation?
I certainly like that better than forcing dbus into the spec, personally.
Yeah, I mean, we have the reason we use dbus is that it's not the Laravel service is not designed to be part of UniMatrix in the first place. We use a lot of dbus at Axis for applications to communicate with services. So that is the background to it. I mean, we could definitely think of. I have thought about it myself before, and we could do some more thinking on it if we could replace the dbus based session initialization process with a Unix domain socket instead.
Yeah, maybe we should think about it. Since I think it's maybe not so common to use dbus in this way. I'm not sure. It's common for a lot of UI-based applications to use dbus. If you look at GNOME or things like that, they dbus a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it comes from a Linux desktop world.
Yeah.
What,
But I know there are things in the works to kind of fix dbus for the future, but I'm not sure if it's ready yet. So it could be that it's 1 year away and so on. So using sockets is maybe a better option. I'm not sure.
we use for Laravel, we use the now I lost the name of it. It's the C++ library for system for dbus access.
It's Gitlab or SDBus?
It's I will check. I don't remember the name now on top of my head. Maybe it doesn't matter. I'm eager to know how common the use of dbus in surveillance camera really is, and what other vendors use instead. That would be really interesting to know more about.
Maybe someone else could. What do you use for? I mean, at Panasonic, for example.
Ah, わかりますかね。カインさん、do you know about the detail?
Yeah, about for the dbus.
Yeah, what kind of IPC mechanism do you use to communicate, like between applications and the system, or between two applications?
Mainly direct memory maps between the drivers and the applications. Shared memory.
Yeah, some message queue also can configure. Yeah.
For another purpose, yeah.
Because I mean, one reason why behind the quite frequent use of dbus at Axis is that many open source components, system components, depend on dbus. Many open source components that we use in our system. So do you not? I assume that you do not use any such components that depend on dbus.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, we could definitely think about other alternatives on how to do the session initialization. I mean, we experience different kinds of issues related to this dbus communication in and out of of containers. So I mean, it's not the first time I hear about it.
But so dbus also gives you kind of a security model, right? So you can set access. You can grant like access rights and things like that on dbus. So if you would take away that, you would need to. If you just have a socket, then basically you have just file access privileges that to play with.
Yeah, that could. It might limit our our abilities to handle different permissions.
Because one nice thing with, if you use security, an LSM, Linux security module like AppArmor, which is, AppArmor is developed by Canonical, I think. Yeah. And so they have like a, then you can basically do a lot of configuration of your who can access what and which applications are allowed to do things on different APIs.
Yeah. Yeah, I consider dbus, the dbus type IPC being on a completely different level than a plain socket. I mean, it gives you a lot of additional features that the plain socket cannot compete with. But I mean, there is also, it gives you some dependencies as well.
So how much work do you think it is to, you know, provide an alternative API?
I don't know really. I think we need to look that over and try to estimate that. But I don't. I think it's. I mean, to just implement a socket-based session initialization. I don't think that is particularly advanced, but I mean, we need to. There is a lot of things around authentication and so on that we need to think through. So I think that is the most tricky part. But I will. I can. I can for sure investigate the possibilities to set up a different kind of session initialization. I can definitely do
that. Anyway, I think for at this, let's say we want to make a draft of UniMatrix 1.0. I think we'll have to live with dbus for now and stay away from user namespace. I think dbus works fine.
Yeah, and I mean we I don't remember now, Frederick, on top of my head, but are we using, what are we using systemd as the dbus broker, or do we use the so that we don't use the separate the old one?
No, we're using systemd right now, I think.
Yeah.
We've been monitoring. There's a new broker written by Red Hat, which is superior, I think. But problem is that no distribution has yet. I think only maybe Red Hat themselves have started using it. So other major distributions have not switched to this broker.
Okay. Could I ask you guys from Panasonic about systemd? Are you not using a systemd at all in your system, or do you use a different init program?
Like we don't use systemd. So yeah, almost completely. We built it from scratch, our original system.
Okay.
Right, wait. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is anyone else using systemd in their cameras?
because we have some Larod have some dependencies to system D as well, but I mean it should be possible to make. I think it should be possible to make the system D dependencies configurable, so that it's possible to build Larod without system D dependencies. But we need to overlook that as well.
Basically, you should be able to have it all as a container, right? So if you don't have dbus on your system, you could just start a new dbus and make that socket available to the system and to other containers.
Okay.
I haven't tried it, but it should work.
Okay.
Yeah, these issues are pretty thorny. So, you know, the sort of the Docker way of doing things, the Docker best practice on initialization scripts, you know, they don't use systemd for anything, right? So you're basically forced into writing sort of custom initialization scripts, usually in Bash. It's actually quite painful. There's no standard way of dealing with this. Everything feels like a bit of a hack, and this all comes down to, you know, these issues around dbus. I would love to see some stopgap here, and it looks like Red Hat is trying to provide one, but it's not ready to ride yet. Yeah, I mean, if UniMatrix accepted systemd as an initialization standard, and we were able to put stopgap in place, that I think would be great. But it feels like the stopgaps that are under development right now are just not ready for prime time.
Okay. So let me continue on the host requirements. So basically, next one was you should have a run C that is compatible with the CLI specification and the container D, including the gRPC API. And so my idea is to provide like test suites for these things. And then with dbus we discussed. So the last one there is around Opencv. So my idea was to split Opencv into one host part, which provides basically the video I/O, which is kind of hardware dependent. So for access side, it's we have our own driver for Opencv, so that will reside in the host or in another container, sidecar container, and then like all the other infrastructure and so on for Opencv will be in the base layer. But for the future, this is how I see it now, because that's the easiest way to go forward, I think. Then each host can provide something that works with Opencv. But for the future, I'd like to see a UniMatrix driver for Opencv. But it's something for the future. Then we will have. I have an idea of using Redis as a cache, so that you can read metadata information. Also, it could possibly be used as a video API to get the frame, the data you need to read a frame in zero copy. And then, so the Redis would be like a common layer for getting different kind of metadata to your application. But that's for the future, because yeah, I think that will take a longer time. If we want to get something like a draft out in reasonable time. I think for now we have to live with this bullet 5. Are there any other comments about the host requirement? Yeah, also I haven't really started on the video API section, so I'll put more requirements there on which properties of that the driver should support for different Opencv things, like getting the timestamps and things like that in your application. Okay, next section is about the base layers. So my idea is to have basically 2 layers. So one is base and the other one is base Python. And the base layer will contain the things from Opencv, that a common subset of Opencv. The base layer will contain just the C, C++ API, while the base Python will contain also the Python bindings needed. So and these, so 3 architectures will be supported, like the ARM 32-bit, ARM 64-bit, and AMD 64. Also, there will be a corresponding development layer for that for your host. You can cross-compile for your architecture. And the base layer, I see. I think the Ubuntu image is quite good. It's been optimized, I think. So it's actually smaller than corresponding Debian minimal image. So I think the Ubuntu image looks pretty good as a base. So, and then for the APIs, it's the video API, which is done Opencv, and the inference API, which is the Laravel C library. And then for base Python, everything from base is included. There will be Python 3 support, common. Basically, I think we'll take the Ubuntu Python 3 package, which is a meta package, plus some extra Python packages like NumPy, which is used by Opencv, and protobuf, which is needed for Laravel, and gRPC IO, which is needed for Laravel. Also, the base Python will contain a gRPC API for the inference engine. Any comments about the base layers? All right, so my next task will be to kind of define the video API. So which subset of Opencv that will support, and which parts, which properties that you can read for an image, for example. So, or which properties you can set. So which video formats are supported, and so on. And also the inference API will add to that. And then system containers is basically the inference engine, and it could be Redis in the future, and other components that we want to provide to have a functioning system. Yeah, so it's just a draft at this point. So I just wanted to kind of give an update on what I'm doing right now. Any comments on the anything missing? Any other comments you have on the specification? So if you're willing to help out with this, you're very welcome to provide a pull request or merge request. It's called in GitLab actually. Then if there's no comments, maybe we can give we can let Ewan talk about Lara at the next release.
Yeah, I could possibly say a few words about that. We are working on for the closest future. We are working on primarily one thing, and that is to optimize the internals, the internal data flows in Larod, to be able to really do true zero copy, and as far as is possible, we want to avoid the need for doing memory mapping, for example, cache management, in the case where for example, where the CPU don't need to touch the data in any stage of a application pipeline. For example, if in most cases the YUV, the original YUV data is coming from a piece of hardware somewhere, like it could be produced by a scaler, an image scaler, for example. And then the next step would be to do some color space conversion on it to get an image in RGB format, possibly in a different resolution, to be able to feed that into the inference stage later on. And looking at that as an example, there is probably no real need for the CPU to touch that data or to even map it. So we are trying to find a way to pass the data through this pipeline in a way that is as efficient as possible, with as little CPU overhead as possible, so that we try to avoid CPU copies primarily, but also memory mapping and cache management. So that is one thing that we are going to start up now. In the meantime, we are planning for moving our work upstream. So we are trying to find to set the ways we are working with Larod upstream. So we will try. Our plan is to start with doing more regular drops to Gitlab. That will be the first change, and then we will look into the process of moving. I mean, we have a local. The Larod master resides in a local repository at Access today, and the code on Gitlab is just it's just a copy of that, so to speak. But we are planning for eventually moving our active master branch to Gitlab, so that we are doing all the development there, and all external merge requests must be able to go into that master, and we need to set up some kind of a CI/CD pipeline, because we will probably end up in a situation where we don't have the hardware here at Axis to test all external or all hardware backends that could come in as external contributions. So we are looking into that, investigating how we can do that on GitLab. So that is that is also an ongoing process now. Any comments or thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think from Focal side, I think Brian, they I think agreed to host the device farm, or it's like provide the device farm for UniMatrix. But I guess the actual dev boards or whatever kind of hardware we are using will be spread out. So I think Focal can provide a way for you to have a local device that is part of the device farm.
Yeah, that's right. We're basically at the point here in our feature releases where self-service should be ready to go here in the next month to 6 weeks. We've consistently pushed that back over the last 2 quarters because we've had feature requests on other fronts, and we've just ended up adding features to farms that we're hosting and managing for the end customer. But yeah, self-service is coming back to the top here in Q4. So yeah, would love to stay in touch with you, Yoon, about hosting your own device and how to connect it to like a larger collection of devices for UniMatrix use.
Yeah, I think we will host a couple of Axis. So it will be basically the Raspberry Pi 4, and then also I think a Umbrella dev board, and then our own platform.
We actually have a handful of Axis cameras already here in one of the New York clusters that we got from ADP North America. So
all right.
Those are currently not online. I think we took them down after a refactor back in July, but you know, if you need more to go up, we do. I think we've got 4 of your cameras.
Is it the deep learning models?
I don't believe so. I'll have to double check the docs, but yeah, I think they're sort of basic models.
All right. Yeah, probably we want to have some deep learning models to test the inference on those.
Noted. I can reach out to ADP North America and see if they have any that they'd be willing to send over.
Sure. Yoon, can you give some kind of timeline of when you expect next release to be available and what will be part of the release?
Yeah, we will try to we will try to upload. We will upload what we have today on our local master, and that was the things that will be part of that release was the things that I described on the call during the summer, and it's I think the primary features. The primary features of that is our pre-processing support. That is, I mean that is the colors format conversion, the scaling, cropping support. That will be part of that release. We have also new backend implementations for for example, for the Google Edge TPU and Ambarella CV Flow. That is 2 examples. I think we will also include a GPU, a TensorFlow Lite generic GPU support in that release as well. So that there are a few different new hardware backend implementations. But
so what kind of GPU will that work on? Would it like NVIDIA, or is it other?
Yeah, the requirements for that is it's OpenGL and OpenCL, I think. I don't remember the exact versions that you need for it, but you can read more about it if you read about the GPU. I don't remember the exact name of it, but there is a GPU. There is a GPU back end to TensorFlow Lite, so we have enabled this through the TensorFlow Lite back end in Larod. So you use it through TensorFlow Lite. So you can by doing that, you can run, if you run Larod on a system with a GPU that can do OpenCL and OpenGL, you can deploy a TensorFlow Lite model to Larod, and Larod can use the GPU to accelerate the inference.
That's good. I mean, if we talked about here having a PC-based platform as well, so I guess that backend would be good for that kind of platform where you have like maybe an NVIDIA or some other kind of
We have verified it on a GPU, on a NVIDIA GPU, so it should be the way to go for that kind of systems.
Also, one question: let's say you're running on a PC, and then you connect your Coral USB stick or something to the PC. Will the Coral backend detect that connected USB stick, or is it possible to use that with that standard Larod backend for Coral?
Yeah, if you have a Larod with the TensorFlow Lite, the Edge TPU TensorFlow Lite backend enabled, that one will run on a PC with an Edge TPU USB stick. We have done a lot of development using that setup, actually. So we do a lot of our Larod framework development, the core framework development on our host computers using such a setup.
That sounds good. That's great.
So that shouldn't be an issue at all. So I don't expect this what I mentioned before about our work of optimizing the internal data flow in Larod with regards to zero copy, zero mapping, zero cache management. That is not going to be part of the next release that we put on GitLab. We will put that release on GitLab before that work is ready to be launched.
So does that mean if you want to do color conversion or something, you need to do that in Opencv before you pass it to Larod, or?
No, that part will be that the pre-processing part will be part of the next release.
All right.
So that is on our master today. So that could be part of that.
Probably also we need some updated examples. So I think we should next meeting we should talk about how to proceed with the next event. I mean, a new hackathon, maybe a collaboration hackathon on doing some new examples for UniMatrix. All right, I think we're nearing the end here.
Yeah, I could just comment on that. We need to we still need a few I think a few weeks to be able to get up and running with more continuous releases to GitLab, but we are working. That is work in progress here at Access now. So I expect that to happen within some weeks from now. There's a lot of I mean, there's a part of that work is legal, for example, and there's a lot of lead times related to that.
Okay. Any updates from any other company? All right, so then we come to the next meeting. The GB wanted us to join in their joint session on October 15th. Maybe we should have one more meeting before that. So I propose that we have another meeting in 2 weeks. So September 7th.
October 7th.
Oh, sorry, October 7th, yeah.
And at that meeting, we could talk more about planning for Laura, the event, or?
Yeah, for next hackathon or next event.
The 6th, 7th, and 8th is the ARM Dev Summit, so there may be some conflicts there for us in particular.
So you're occupied from the 6th to the 8th?
Yeah, sporadically, just, it's a typical online bunch of presentations. I haven't actually gone through the schedule to see what I'm going to be attending yet, but likely to be some conflicts. And maybe for other people who are on the line.
Yeah, we could have it the 5th, maybe one.
Yeah, it's okay for me.
So at the same time as today, but on the 5th of October.
Okay.
All right. So thanks everyone for joining. That's all I had. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I actually would like to add one thing. It's a question. During the call that I participated in during the summer, there was a request from, I think, from the Hikvision team to set up a call regarding adding a backend for high silicon platforms to Larod. But I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything from anyone in the Hikvision team since then. Is there still an interest in arranging such a call?
Yeah. Hi. John. Yeah. I think the last meeting that that should be you or other guy and proposed to have a Larode sharing session with the HiSilicon, right? So and this is the time I don't remember what is the exact time. So once we got this time proposal, and we can set up a meeting with between you and the HiSilicon, and to share a little bit what's going on, and what kind of requirement they need to do or something like that.
Yeah, I'm very positive to that. So you're very welcome to invite me to such a call.
Okay.
That's no problem. Do you have
my
my email?
I'm not sure, and I will check. I will check.
Yeah, I think we can solve that in case you don't.
Yeah.
Maybe there are other people also interested. I'm not sure, or it is better to keep it like a small meeting.
In fact, as our UniMatrix goes larger and larger, I think more and more newcomers are very interested to join. And I don't know you, but we got some contact with the AWS, and maybe they are very like to hear to say how they can do something with this alliance. So
you mean from Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked to Amazon as well, so it's.
But I think from different part, we connect with Amazon Asia, and they have some specific department for new solution development. Like their goal is to seek out some new technology, new possibilities, and join and merge them into their current solution, current architecture. So maybe it's a different view from them to their headquarters. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, they're welcome to join. We have also had some initial discussions. All right.
Are there any other companies represented here today that use platforms from HiSilicon?
I guess Huawei, right?
Yeah, Huawei, Dahua, and they all use HiSilicon, and
Okay. Yeah, but you're very welcome to invite me to such a call.
Okay. In fact, the next week should be a national festival in China, so we will have a 1 week holidays, and I will send an email to you guys to see if we can make time in like mid of October or end of October, like that.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Okay.
All right. So I think that's all for today. Thank you very much for joining, and then we'll reconvene on the 5th of October.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.